So this year, Unit 5's brief I had the title of Unknown Pleasures, and it was about creating in the Woolworth area of London, so just below South Bank, new unknown pleasures. The Woolworth area used to be a very different area.
Historically in Woolworth there's a heavy emphasis on unknown pleasures being slightly out of the central city. People used to come out of the city to this place to experience things and animals and cultures which they wouldn't necessarily get within the city. And we were kind of quite inspired by that, yet wanted to bring it back in a modern fashion through our schemes and proposals. We tried to understand the John Soane Museum and John Soane's desire to, whilst students couldn't go on the grand tours because of expense or the time period that they were in, he tried to actually collect a whole series of artefacts and house them in his museum so that his students could actually almost go on a mini grand tour within his museum and his studios. And it's that fascination with artefacts and objects and architectural representation which kind of started to inspire us to think about how we could visit Venice and do something similar, yet in a 21st kind of century fashion.
For Unit 5, it was about mimicking what Ruskin undertook in Venice, but in a 21st century format. So instead of drawing and sketching and measuring, we were using technologies such as scanning. We used 3 different types of scanners for this: the 123D capture from Autodesk, the ScanX software, which is similar to what you might find with an Xbox, or a Faro scanner.
Well, we took the scanners to Venice just because of their portability, and the portability of just being able to plug it into a laptop, and then you could go up to pretty much anything of interest and very easily just load up on a laptop and just start scanning it. So yeah, like one of the really fun things we did was we went to St Mark's Square like really early in the morning before like all the tourists arrived. So it was like 5, 6 in the morning, and it was really beautiful actually. Like the sun was like rising up over the river, and oh, it was lovely. But anyway, so we started like scanning stuff just to avoid the crowds, because they always get a bit confused when you see there with this like a scanner, just kind of a bit, what are they doing? But it's really cool. We got some really awesome results from it, and it was really fun to do. Basically, we chose about 5 or 6 locations around Venice that we all agreed we had an interest in. And Julian came out with the Faro scanner, which is a much larger, more sophisticated scanning equipment. It is able to scan at a much larger radius in comparison to the ScanX scanner, where you have to do quite small objects and be quite close to it. We saw similarities with the Strassenova to Elephant and Castle, that they were both quite large like connection hubs for like transport and just for pedestrians just to get around. Like we're similar to Strassenova being like a large street with lots of paths kind of connecting onto it. Similar to Elephant and Castle, however, it being more vehicular based with trains and cars. But obviously, with our master plan developments, we were hoping to make Elephant Castle central bit to be more pedestrianised. So taking scans of this, of the Strassenova, was really useful just to maybe create similarities or take ideas from the scans, which we can then apply into our own projects back in Elephant Castle. Another one we were really interested by was the Rialto fish market. I was personally really interested in how the market changed day and night. On the one side there was small kiosks which kind of folded out and folded open, and there was all this kind of rush of life, and then in the evening they'd all close away, and then the other side of the market would just come alive with restaurants and bars, and it was a really lovely market. And having that data, kind of using that data and using that market as a model, kind of looking at the design and the layout of it and how it works. It was a really useful tool for me to use when I got back. Kind of being able to get like different fly-throughs and to getting different angles of of this square. It was really useful, you know, getting kind of like the flyover view, kind of gets you to have a different angle of Venice, which no one else could have ever possibly had. One of the other squares we scanned was the Scarpa Square, or the Scarpa Design Square, which is outside the Venetian School of Architecture, which is obviously a really useful, fascinating square because it's quite peculiar style of architecture in comparison to the rest of Venice. So it was really great having the opportunity to scan that and having getting kind of really detailed like scans of that.
So I think a lot of people, it wasn't necessarily fundamental. I don't think their designs were fundamentally dependent on the artifacts that you scan from Venice. But it was that process, it was that kind of understanding of going somewhere, recording, developing, to be able to then think about your own work and how you do that. What is your process? What is your development? What is your recording method? Can you challenge yourself? And a lot of students use aspects like I just said in different fashions, but also some students didn't necessarily use it as a literal representation. They just saw it as a part of their process, and without going to Venice, they wouldn't have got to the same process after. And it was a hugely beneficial trip, I think, to everyone in different ways.